Emma. Right, okay, so Luc Rémont is the Executive Vice President, International Operations at Schneider Electric. Okay, I've kind of set the scene, but I want to know from you, you're the expert here as well. Massive challenges, massive opportunity. How big is the problem? Has it become because of this cost of living crisis? Good evening to you, Luc.
Good evening, Steve, and very happy to be participating today. Well, I would definitely weigh on the side of the opportunity. Clearly, we have been talking about sustainability for years. We have been facing the climate change challenges for years, and COVID and then the most recent crisis have just increased the speed at which we need to switch over to decarbonated world. We saw the acceleration of the awareness over the last few years, and COVID has been contributing to this. And as a company, of course, we work with all the energy users and the energy grid transmission and distribution players in the world. So we saw this shift to electricity starting to accelerate on the last few years. What we have today is a need to accelerate. The first need is definitely determined by climate change urgency. And I think nobody challenges the fact that we have to accelerate today, maybe 3 to 5 times faster decarbonation that we currently do, just to be hoping to be matching the Paris Agreement, which is plus 1.5 degrees of increased temperature. So that's a need, but at the same time, the scarcity of resources that we are facing globally, so that's true for the raw materials, true for an accelerated issue now on some carbon-generated resources for energy. This is actually an opportunity to switch over faster. Because when you are on the side of the energy user, which is ultimately the one who decides what kind of energy and how much of energy he needs, you are on this side, you make reasonable and mindful choices, and you start to work effectively on your energy equation. And based on that, you look every time when technology allows you to do better. And technology allows you to do better first in spending less energy. Mm-hmm. That's about measuring how much you need and spending when you need, not overspending. This is in average for any type of user, 30%, basically. On top of this, then you can work on what type of energy you use. You can start to produce your own energy. We see more and more industrial companies going in that direction, sourcing themselves their own renewable energy and storing some of it to have a hedging capacity. And then you can also source from the market renewable energy instead of sourcing carbonated energy. All of these options are now available to the energy users in most of the countries. Number of countries where it is available is accelerating extremely fast since COVID. And this is the trend that is going to help to shift to a decarbonated world much faster than what we could have thought even 5 years ago.
I knew I didn't need to do about 5 hours of notes for you because you've already raised about 10 issues, which I'm going to throw away in my notes in a second. Look, you said nobody challenges. They do. They challenge me. They challenge me on the social media. They challenge me that actually we move too fast and we don't have security of energy as well, and renewables just can't fill the gap for hydrocarbons. How do you challenge those people who are challenging me?
Well, first, I measure, the degree of challenge since 25 years, personally. I was in the Kyoto Protocol negotiation 25 years ago, and at that time, there was absolutely no alternative. Today, there is alternative, and the alternative is good for business. It's not just a sustainable, motto that we have to save the planet. This is the rational thing to do from a business standpoint to shift to a mix that is much more heavily decarbonated. So that's the answer you can give to the people who challenge you. Now, of course, depending on the nature of industry, depending on the nature of spending, not everyone, not every country is facing the same challenge. Of course, everyone has to build a journey at his own pace, depending on where they start from. And of course, this should not be debated. But the fact that we all have to move in that direction, frankly, compared to a few years ago, I see much less pushback today.
Okay, Luc, I'm a company, I'm a small company, I'm seeing an enormous cost in my current cost of energy as well. I can't afford the innovation. I can't afford the Schneider Electric product. I can't afford to switch to renewables now because I'm trying to pay my wages. So I get the large corporations, I get the TNCs, but what about the vast number of SMEs out there as well who just don't have the capital for that investment?
So I would then ask you, how much megawatts do you need for your operations? Depending on the number of megawatts you need, there are third-party financing that are existing more and more, and power purchase agreements markets that are existing in more and more countries that are enabling companies like yours to really take ownership of your own electricity and energy with a business model that is financed by the savings that you are going to do and by the fact that if you move to renewable, there is a very important element in renewable, zero variable cost. Zero variable cost. Mm-hmm. So when you pay every month your energy bill with variable cost energies, including supply from the grid, if you go with zero variable cost self-generated energy, mm-hmm. This is, of course, an investment. This is CapEx for you, for which you can find banks or people that are dedicated in the PPA market to help you to finance that. But then you have that off your P&L. Mm. And you have energy that is coming for free, just the amortization of the CapEx that you've done.
Okay. I spent a lot of time with Jean-Pascal talking about ecosystems, talking about scopes, 1, 2, 3, but also about partnerships.
Yep.
Government has to play a role in this as well. Government has to take some form of leadership as well. How do you see that working? Does it come through excessive regulation or more regulation? Or how does the government work with corporations to keep the energy transition on track?
Well, it depends a lot on where countries start from.
Okay.
You have the circumstances are local all the time, and everyone has to define its own journey from their starting point. So you have countries with heavily decarbonated generation already because they have hydropower, they have wind, they have solar. Okay, they are starting there. Their journey will be mostly on the efficiency side and complementing their journey on the renewable side. You have countries who, by design, have started from much more carbonated resources, and the challenge for them is to switch to decarbonated and probably to take all the growth of energy needs of the future with decarbonated resources. And you have a specific challenge for developing countries and emerging markets where the demand is growing much faster than the capability to switch to a new trend. And this is probably the biggest opportunity today for them to move directly to the last generation, okay. As most of them did on the phones, okay. Where some of them skipped the fixed infrastructure to move straight to the mobile. Okay. Most of them have a great opportunity to move straight to the last generation of energy, which is sustainable.
My clock's already gone, but I'm going to ask you one more question. We are now at $110 oil. It's the benchmark for a lot of other energy out there, for gas, and we'll speak to Dana Gas about that in a few moments' time as well. What is the biggest danger to this? Actually $40 oil, because we see some form of recessionary crash, or $140 oil, again, which is going to put a greater squeeze on the cost of living? Which scenario is worse, or are they both as equally bad as each other, or do they not matter?
Look, at the end, we are used to oil going up and down. I think the present level of oil is at least good for one thing, is that I would not paraphrase a Chinese proverb that says, never waste a good crisis as an opportunity. Having oil at 110, 120-ish for the users forces everyone to ask themselves the question, how can I sustain this? Which means, let's look into the energy bill, let's look in my loads, let's look in my sourcing, so that I can potentially cope with this level of price by using less of this. That's just the natural trend that most of the users of energy should be.
Take out the sensibility to underlying energy prices by moving ahead regardless and being more sensible at your use. Luc Rémont, I've got to leave it there as well. I'm probably only about 5 minutes over already, so thank you, Emma, for that already, even though I haven't had an evil stare from you just yet. Luc Rémont, who is Executive Vice President of International Operations at Schneider Electric, thank you very much indeed, sir.